So overall objective with SDG 2 is to end hunger in all its forms everywhere across the planet, achieve food security so that there is guaranteed supply of food to each and every individual, and improve nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. So these are the key things associated with the SDG 2. Let's see some performances. Exploring the distance to cover to achieve target 2.1 by 2030, end hunger and ensure access by all people, in particular the poor and people in vulnerable situations, including infants, to safe nutrition and sufficient food for all year around. Okay, so you can see this gray represents no data, like here there is no data, in this country no data, but rest the most light like a pink, good performance, and red, deep red, poor performance, right? So you can see like some countries like Somalia and others from African like a continent, they are under like a most poor performing like a countries, and majority of countries from African continent, okay, they are having like a reds from this range, and including South Asian countries, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, right, are under like a red category, and then some lighter pinks we see here in this range like China, and then in the southern American continent also there are a few little red ones, and then majority of the places where there is like this light like a pink is the North America, Europe, and Australia, New Zealand, and well, Chile over here in South America. Yeah, so that is the distribution. Yeah, so how this can be done? It's a small case study from a company, Woolworths. I have kept it as a just one example, like in what ways with the right intention like this can be done. Okay, so as a case study you take it as like an academic like an example to this like a study. So here like this belongs to like a food like a retailer sector from South Africa, and aligns to SDG 2. It created farming for the future to address the agriculture challenges that face South Africa. Well, global challenges, we know world population is increasing, and in turn so in demand for food. Increasing estimated 1/3 of all food produced is wasted each year. 1/3, unimaginable. And climate change has had severe negative impacts on the agricultural sector. This pairing means adaptation and a shift towards sustainable practices within farming is needed to take a step towards eliminating hunger in an ever more challenging environment. Business response: in 2009, Woolworths realized that the farming methods being used in their supply chain in South Africa were not sustainable. This triggered the company to create a method of farming that produced high quality food whilst preserving natural resources and providing a livelihood for agricultural community. Farming for the future is a holistic farming approach that starts with building and maintaining the soil. Safe soil movement, you may be aware, is also going on in India, by Sadhguru's organization. Benefits: healthy soil full of minerals and nutrients is essential because it is better able to retain water and so yields healthier crops. Higher water retention reduces the need for irrigation and soil erosion is reduced, lowering the overall cost of farmers. Healthy soil requires fewer chemicals, which combined with the use of fewer pesticides contributes to maintaining and encouraging biodiversity on farms and is safe for farmers' health. This process makes the start of the farming supply chain more sustainable. Today, 98% of Woolworths' primary local suppliers have adopted farming for future approach. Okay, so you see how even companies and corporates also can tweak their regular processing methods and contribute. Okay, so maybe you can see over here in this illustration this SDG 2 where it is directly related, that's what is illustrated in this one. Of course, the first one SDG first, and then this gender equality, agriculture, infrastructure, and all of those renewable energies, like health and well-being, climate change, life on water, life on land, both are covered over here, is directly related. Okay. So what are those like a points given under this? 2.1 says ensure access to safe, nutritious and sufficient food for all, and by now we are aware why this is important. 2.2 end all forms of malnutrition, because malnutrition can happen in multiple ways. Like we know, like for the human body, there are carbohydrates which are needed, then there are like fats which are needed, like proteins, vitamins, right, other minerals, and bodily like salts, right. All of these, if you see, they have their own roles. It's not that one is better or another one is inferior. It's a kind of a proper combination of all of this, combined with many others also, water and like other things, play a vital role for the metabolic, like a balance of the body and maintaining, like a proper, like energy balance, proper, like a nutritional, supplements to the different organs. For example, we know like a vitamin A is essential for eyes, and similarly like a some like a such like a things play like a crucial role for like a functioning of our different body parts, or maybe as a whole together, right. So it is very essential to have all of these supplements in their proper ratio to every human being. Okay. So that is the bottom line. If you consult like a medical practitioner or maybe a nutritionist, you can find out more details onto this. Double smallholder food production and income. 2.4 talks about deliver sustainable resilient food systems, maintain agro biodiversity. So if you see, these are the like a points where we are talking about the system. We're talking about from the individual. You see, these two are focused towards individuals and households, you and me. Now it is going towards the system. How do we go about a proper production and income system? How do we go about resilient food system and maintaining agro biodiversity also? Because it was said previously over here, like how like a nutritional value of soil also is essential. Proper moisture is essential. Proper level of nutrients in the soil are also essential for growing like a food. Okay, so that agro biodiversity, because insects like and all of those things, they are also essential in some form. Okay, so not every pest is kind of like a pest. Okay, but like they also help in some other ways. Like for example, like honeybees, if you see. Okay, so honeybees are so crucial. There are like several studies which suggest like they are so crucial for the survival of human beings and any other like a species on the planet. Okay, because if they go extinct for some reason, this entire planet's agricultural system is going to collapse. Okay, so such a teeny tiny insect, such a teeny tiny like a member of our ecology, okay, is a very important member of the ecology, and so much is dependent on it. Okay, so that's the kind of like agro biodiversity we are talking about, involving like all of these like stakeholders. Increase investment in rural infrastructure and services. Okay, because usually rural infrastructure and like facilities are generally typically like neglected or not so much on the priority list. Okay, but majority of the agriculture, if you see, happens in those pockets, in those lands. Okay, it comes from the rural areas, right? Unorganized sectors, from the unorganized sectors, agricultural sectors from the rural areas, right? So this strengthening is needed there also, because a majority of percentage of food supplies comes from that region. We cannot put it to the like a to the like a risk and vulnerabilities, right? Correct and prevent world agricultural trade distortions. Okay, this is a little political and administrative kind of like a thing over here. Like like some countries enjoy a very commanding position over the others. Okay, but for as long as like this SDG is concerned, it is expected for the sake of humanity, one must not actually go behind politicizing like a food supplies or food like a securities to the last member of our like a humanity, right? So such like a things, such small practices, trade distortions also should be avoided. Okay, that's what it intends, because somewhere these politics also plays, even if there is like a supply of food at certain place, but because of so and so restrictions, it is not allowed to reach to those plates at some other faraway place, right? So that's a kind of a political like a bottleneck which is preventing the food security. Ensure proper functioning of food commodity markets. So because there is a proper channel like how the food actually starts growing in the field, by farmers, and then reaches to the, like stocks and warehouses, from there to the marketing, like places, tradings, traders, etc. Then it reaches to the you and me as a consumer, right? So this, whole, like a chain, this whole hierarchy, these, like elements of, like this chain, this sequence, must also function, properly, in order to, not hinder in the overall progression. Okay, this is one slide where, like a discussion about relation between SDG 2 to 1 is discussed. Okay, so how, like these targets, they complement to each other, like 2.1 and 2.2, directly related to 1.1 and 1.2. Similarly, 2.2 overall, the whole of the SDG 1, 2.3 to 1.4, 2.3 to 1.5, 2.4 to 1.5, 2.B to 1.B. Okay, now see the key interactions, what are happening over here. Food and nutrition security are indivisible from eradication and reduction of poverty. Okay, so score, if you see, this has got, +3. Increasing small scale food producer productivity and income reinforce the fight against, poverty. This has got +2. Equal access to land and other productive resources is directly aligned with securing equal rights to economic resources, +2. So you see, these are, like directly related, like a food security and, like a poverty, like a alleviation. This comes, like a really kind of like a lot of, there is kind of an intertwined, like a kind of like a phenomena where, both of these actually, supplement or, complement each other, right? That's why there is a very strong, relationship between, interaction between these. Increasing agriculture productivity without sustainability, 2.4, will increase vulnerability to climate related extreme events and other shocks, -1, -2, primarily in developing countries and for poor segments of societies. Thus 2.3, 2.0 need to be achieved in tandem. Enhancing adaptive capacity in agriculture may enhance the resilience of the poor as long as they are fully included in our adaptation strategies, 0 to +1. Removal of trade restrictions could constrain the creation of pro-poor policy framework by limiting the range of policy actions, at least in the short term. So how these policies and, like frameworks also, like carry a potential to impact, okay, and how they are performing is rated over here. Again, direct, from 2 to 3, there is again a further, like a direct relationship, because food supplements, at least the physical well-being and to the emotional and mental well-being also. If you are not fed, definitely you are going to fall sick physically, as well as, you will be in the mental, like a agony, mental, pressure, right? So all sorts of well-beings, go, from this food, supplies. Also, relations you can see 2.1 to 2.2 connected to 3.1, 3.2, and so on. Key interactions, let's see. Ensuring food and nutrition security directly creates conditions that led to the reduction of maternal mortality and preventable deaths of the newborns. That's what we were discussing. If there is a proper food supply and nutrition value, the mortality rate of newly born infants and, like expecting or, lactating mothers is definitely going to improve. Okay. Food and nutrition security and stable agricultural employment help reduce communicable diseases owing to better nutrition and health status, and because better rural income help prevent the pursuit of unsafe practices leading to communicable diseases. Okay, directly related. Okay, increasing agricultural productivity via conventional agriculture can increase soil and water pollution, constraining the reduction of deaths and illnesses caused by hazardous chemicals. That's why this has got, like a minus. Okay, because those hazardous chemicals, they may help you grow more food, but they have, like other impacts also. Such chemicals can adversely affect human health, particularly the newborns, but can also affect perinatal death and cancer outcomes in overall production. So you may be aware some of, like these compounds, chemicals, they are carcinogens, and a long-term exposure, to, such chemicals, maybe, like a cancerous, it may lead to cancerous situation or carcinogenic, like conditions. Doubling agriculture productivity by mainly focusing on low nutrient and energy rich foods, calories, will constrain the fight against non-communicable diseases. The interaction is also counterbalanced by targets on nutrition -1. Extensification of agriculture may increase deforestation, often accompanied by irrigation -2. So you can see this. Okay. Then we have, some slides to discuss, what is going on across, like a different, like a places around the world. Number and proportions of undernourished people. Okay, so that's the slide where, we have percentage of it, undernourished people, from 0 to up to like a 35. Okay, and then we have a different, regions of the world. We have sub-Saharan Africa being the first one here, then Southern Asia, Oceania, Southeastern Asia, Eastern Asia, Western Asia, Caucasus and Latin America, Northern Africa, developed regions, developing regions, overall world. Okay, and these are the two regions you can see. This is the data from 2000 to 2002, and this is the recent data 2014 to 16. So you can see how majorly this percentage has come down. So that I think is visible in most of the places. This lighter from the previous years and these darker from the like later years, recent years. Okay, so that percentage has definitely come down at the world also. If I see in a nutshell, from 930 million to 795 million. Okay, so there is improvement of at least 35 million, like over here what we can see. And similarly developing regions also there is like an improvement. And now if you go region wise, sub-Saharan to 204 to 220. Okay, this has increased. Okay, but the percentage has decreased, but the overall volume has increased, right? So we see 204 million to 20 million over here, but percentage wise it was 30. Now it is close to around 22, 23, something like that, 23 perhaps, right? So percentage wise it has decreased, but overall volume wise if you see, this has increased. So there is a catch, Similarly in Southern Asia, percentage wise further it has decreased, from here I see around 18%. So close to 15% it has come down, but overall number wise, volume wise, 272 million to 281 million. Okay, so that means the population has risen even further, and percentage wise there is improvement, but overall volume wise it is expanding. So that's a tricky situation. Oceania very small, 1.3 to 1.4, but this has also increased. Here this has decreased significantly, percentage wise also and volume wise also. So volume 118 to 61 million, percentage wise I think close to 22 to close to like less than 10 it looks like, right? So that's a significant improvement. Here also there is an improvement, 222 to 145. Here there is no improvement, it has degraded, 14 to 19. Percentage only slightly improved. Here 11 to 6 million. This is Caucasus and Central Asia. All of those Stan countries, Uzbekistan, etc. 11 million to 6 million. Okay, so percentage wise also has improved and volume wise also it's almost halved. That's nice. Latin Caribbean 60 to 34. That's an improvement. 7 to 4, there is improvement. Here also developed region also improvement. Developing regions also overall improvement. World has also overall improvement, but yeah, there are some catches. Yeah, some more details on this. Maybe if you look at like this graph, it talks about number and proportion of undernourished people in the world 2005 to 20. Okay, millions and percentage. So if you see gradually till this year 2019, 18, and 19 there is a, like a slight, like an increase. Till 18, perhaps if I see, this has been declining, right? But now from here it has gone slightly up, and from here it has gone, I think, a good amount, a good percentage this has gone up. It looks like, around 35, 40, 45 degrees, like a sharp angle over here, right? So that's a steep increase. So that's not very encouraging. But we know, like, this year, is marked by, will always be recorded in history for COVID-19 pandemic, okay, which has brought, like additional havoc on the society. I would recommend you guys refer, like these documents. These are, freely available on UN's website. Yeah. Another table, proportion of children under age 5 who are affected by stunting, 2000 and 2020. So these are the year indication, lighter and darker. So Oceania, this has increased. Sub-Saharan Africa, this has decreased, 44 to 32.3. Central Southern Asia also, this has decreased. Northern Africa, Western Asia decreased. Eastern Southern Asia decreased. Latin decreased. Slight decrease here also. Europe and Northern America, here there is increase. Australia and New Zealand, 1.9 to 2.3. Overall world, of course, there is, like an improvement, but there are 2-3 places where it has gone worse. Next one, percentage of overweight and wasting among children under age 5. So you can see wasting is on this side and overweight on this side. So it's a kind of, like a contradictory, paradoxical situation. Like some kids are, like falling short of, like that, and some are having excessive. Okay, so they are getting, like a overweight. And majority of that overweight situation is happening in this Australia and New Zealand. Almost no stunting I see over here. No wasting I see over here, almost zero. Well, it is not written, but it looks like, almost zero. But majorly on this side, the world's highest, 16.9. And then we have second highest in Northern Africa and Western Asia. Then we have 8.6 here, Europe and Northern America. Then Oceania. Then we have Eastern and Southern Eastern Asia, then Latin America, Caribbeans, and then Sub-Saharan Africa, and then lastly Central and Southern Asia. The worlds also you can see almost overweight 5.7 and wasting 6.7. Okay. Prevalence of anemia in women aged 15 to 49, that's the age of productivity, year 2000 to 2019 percentage. Okay, so you can see I see improvement here, improvement. No, not improvement. Overall world, slight improvement. So 2 places, Europe and Northern America, this has increased. Australia and New Zealand also this has increased. Prevalence of anemia in women. So in this challenge, various organizations, NGOs, research, like units, and corporates and governments, and even individuals, there are many like such like agencies or agents who are working behind these like goals. So if you see, what do we need? 100% access to adequate food all year around. That's the food security we are talking about. Okay, maybe you can Google, you can search for the food security laws in India, what government of India, state governments actually have like a mechanism to address this. Zero loss or waste food, that must be the priority, because a kg of food for production takes like a huge amount of resources and time and energy and everything, and if it is just wasted, that's the sheer wastage of all of those investments. Whereas there are people who are falling short of it, okay, who are not able to meet their demands. Okay, so that's the most like a paradoxical and an absurd things possible. Food wastage, we must prevent it at any cost. Zero stunted children in less than 2 years. All food systems are sustainable. I think sustainable approaches for food like a growing must be adopted. 100% increase in smallholder productivity and like a income. Okay, so to just give you some glimpse, when we are talking about scarcity of food, what does it look like? Well, there are even more like a disturbing images which I found it little not so good to put in here. Maybe you can search separately. Okay, but actually these pictures, why it is essential for all of us to have a look, because many of us are not realizing the like the gravity of this situation. Okay, unless and until you see it, witness it yourself, you may not feel that pain, right? So it is essential, one must actually know what food scarcity is. You see these like a people, women, kids, lying in the queue and fighting for like these donations, these amps, right? Yeah, definitely with the like efforts, goals and like things given in the SDG 2, there is a way to address this. Okay, one must strive for this. And with this I have come to the end of today's lecture. I found this illustration very apt, like how you can summarize it as like a politico, administrative or economically benefit, motivation wise, like all of those like things which are standing in the middle of food and the needy, right? So we must abolish this to make it easily accessible, available to the last standing person. With this, I have come to the end of this lecture. Thank you all.